So we are cruising along in this year, and we are gonna do one of my favorite tags, the mid-year freakout tag. I was tagged by Please Read Your Book, and if you haven't had a chance to check out his channel, I will link him down below. All right, so let's get into it. I'm waving a pen around. I'm gonna put that down now. Don't know why I was doing that. Yeah. Calm down, Sin. Oh, the first question is, what's the best book you've read so far this year? Best book so far this year has been The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. Man, that book took me by surprise. It's about this girl who acquires this book of doors, and the book of doors can open up a door to anywhere. As long as you can like envision a door in that place, like the actual door. You could like look up a picture of it online, you know, if you wanted to go to like Italy, find a doorway, and then if you can see it, and then okay, visual in your mind, and there you go. And so this seems really freaking cool that she like comes across this book. So she kind of confides in her roommate and tells her roommate about it. And then the roommate brings her back down to reality and is like, hey, what if bad people got a hold of this? Like, they could just go murder people and steal and just do all kinds of horrible things. Doesn't really want to think about that. But then people find out she has this book and they start coming after her and they will stop at nothing to get it. There's some really horrible, evil people that come after her. And it's like, also, the Book of Doors, not only can you go anywhere, you can go to different times. So you can time travel as well. And there's a lot of really emotional moments in this book as well. It's so many things. A fantastic fantasy with horror elements. All right, so next question. Best sequel you've read so far? So I'm currently reading through the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. And I would have to say that book 2 of the Dark Tower series, The Drawing of Three, absolutely fantastic. That's a sequel. Doesn't say like if it's only a duology, so I'm saying since it's a sequel and a series, that counts. But yeah, definitely that's the best one I've read so far this year. All right, so new release you haven't read yet but want to. I am very excited about a horror movie by Paul Tremblay. I want to get my hands on that very soon. That one I plan to pick up in the next week or so, I would say. All right, and then most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I think most of the stuff I wanted to read came out in the first half of the year. There is one book about Welsh fairies by Mara Starling I am looking forward to. That's a nonfiction book out in September. That is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year because I can't think of anything else that comes out. Like everything else was like earlier. Biggest disappointment. I have one disappointment, but it wasn't a book I was looking forward to. It was just a book I picked up, had a beautiful cover, and I thought the story sounded really good. And that book is Feybound. It was by Sarah Al Arafi, and I just did not vibe with the writing. I tried to read it. Something about the writing just irked me. It was like someone was slowly cutting me and trying to bleed me to death, or like just constant nails on a chalkboard. I don't know why I found it so irritating. I don't think I've ever had a book do that to me before, but maybe you love that book. I don't know why the writing bothered me so much, but it did for whatever reason. Take it with a grain of salt. That's my personal issues. Anyway, moving on. Biggest surprise. Okay, biggest surprise, honestly, was The Book of Doors. I had no expectations for that. Randomly found it at the library. It was not recommended at all. I read the synopsis. I thought it sounded cool, and it's been the best book I've read so far this year, so that was my biggest surprise. All right, so after that, favorite new author, debut or new to you? Honestly, I'm gonna have to go with Jenny Kiefer. Jenny Kiefer wrote the book This Wretched Valley, which is one of my top 10 reads so far this year. And Jenny Kiefer owns the bookstore in Louisville called Butcher Cabin Books. She is my new favorite author because I love that book. All right, so after that, oh, I hate this question. Newest fictional crush. I never have one. I don't have one. I'm sorry. Maybe one day. And maybe I have in the past. I don't remember. I don't remember everything I say, guys. Sorry. I think the last time I told you a crush I had, it was from the series on Netflix, the Sandman series. I had a crush on Morpheus Dream. Anyway, okay, so the next one is newest favorite character. My favorite character is Oi, the Bumbler from the Dark Tower series. He's like a reminds me of like a Tanuki from the Mario games. So he's like they describe him as like a raccoon dog or something along those lines. And he's just so cute and he like kind of communicates. My favorite character. Not even human. All right, so next up, book that made you cry or saddest book you've read. Also, the Book of Doors. That's like the third question the Book of Doors has answered in this. The Book of Doors. It was great. I cried like 4 times reading that book because in certain parts there was time travel, and in that time travel, the main character may go see people who had died and gone beyond, and they get to go back and see them, and it's really heartbreaking and emotional and sad, but it's also beautiful. So that one made me cry the most. Next is book that made you happy. See, I always get weird about like that question, right? Like, what is happiness? I mean, reading in general makes me happy. Some books obviously are sadder than others. I read a lot of horror, so a book that makes me happy. I don't have a specific book, but I have really enjoyed my time and my journey in the Dark Tower series. I'm not saying it makes me happy, but I have been loving this series more than any series I've read. So we'll call that happy with the weirdness in the series. Next is favorite book to film adaptation you saw this year. I don't think I've seen any. I have not. I have barely watched any movies this year. I saw one really weird movie called Foil that was about aliens in the desert and this foil that was inside of this one dude, and real weird. That was a fun one. And Sasquatch Sunset, that made me sad. The new Wes Anderson movie saw that, but you may notice all the movies I saw were about aliens or Bigfoot. All right, so favorite video you have made so far this year. I think my favorite video was probably my top 10 books I've read so far this year. I always find it fun to dig in and see like what were my favorites, and that's just an enjoyable video to make. Most beautiful book you have bought this year. Okay, so that is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. Also a signed edition. And it's gold. Look at it. Pretty. That is the most beautiful one. The rest of the ones I bought, I don't know. They're not very pretty. They're just all right. This is the prettiest. Okay, next we have books that you need to read by the end of the year. Well, my plan is to finish the Dark Tower series by the end of the year. So the Dark Tower books. I don't really have anything else that I need to read. Like, I want to read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, and I want to read Welsh Fairies, but I don't need to, but I will. If you enjoyed this tag and you think you might like to do it, consider yourself tagged. And if you are a fan of tag videos, the next video coming up will be another tag video, so stick around, check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.